Happy Sunday, everyone. Welcome to Our Issues Birmingham. I am delighted to have as our guest Juandalynn Givan.
Correct.
I pronounced that
Absolutely
good.
correctly. Absolutely.
And she is not only a lawyer, she's on our House of Representatives for the state of Alabama, representing District 60.
6-0, yes.
And where is District 60?
60 is located within the far western area of Jefferson County. So I encompass some of Birmingham, portion of Fultonville, Graysville, Adamsville, those areas.
Probably part of Hoover.
No Hoover.
No Hoover?
Hoover.
Out on 150?
I'm not big enough for Hoover.
Oh, don't put yourself down.
I'm not big. I'm not as
So you're a lawyer, and I see you in the courtroom occasionally, but somehow you thought it made sense, and I'm not envious of this decision, but you thought you would run for a political office. So why don't you tell us how you ended up where you are?
Well, it was one of those days when I just felt my whole life was just hopeless, and I'm just kidding. I decided I had worked for Richard Arrington Jr., who's a mentor.
He's been a guest on our show.
Love him, great leader, one of the most notable political
minds.
Very influential. So I worked with Dr. Arrington as an aide, facilitating capital projects and development. And coming up under his tutelage for so many years, working on campaigns from different subject matters and things of that nature.
Well, he was around 26 years.
Absolutely. So I can remember the day that he was actually elected to office, and so coming up under him, just learning the political strategies of the world and of Birmingham, I just decided this seat came available. Earl Hilliard Jr., who's also an attorney, son of a former congressman, was also, he was actually in this seat prior to me. And so ultimately, he decided to run for Congress, and the seat became vacant. And so I said, if anybody can run, I can run, and who better than I? And the rest is history. So I've been serving 14 years now. And
I noticed that.
Yeah, and I haven't aged a bit. No, I'm just kidding.
You use the same expression I use. These are scars, not wrinkles.
Okay, right. But I appreciate and value each and every one of them. And each wrinkle means something. And I'm learning to appreciate each one of them. But for 14 years, I've been serving in the House of Representatives. I've served on the Judiciary Committee, Constitution Campaign and Elections, Fiscal Responsibility, and several others. So I'm just excited.
So in 14 years, you have to have seen an evolution of sorts. And I don't know that evolution is the right word, but I'm sure what existed 14 years ago does not exist now.
Absolutely not. When I first came in, I came in when the Republican Party actually took control of the House. Then Speaker Mike Hubbard was the speaker. He actually wrote a book, Storm the House, and he definitely did that. So after 136 years, Democrats were no longer in office, and for me, all hell broke loose. Just from the shift in leadership, a shift in the culture in Montgomery. This state is a true red state now in many regards, with the exception of Jefferson County. And so it's been an interesting number of years, to say the least.
It has to be frustrating at what I perceive to be a constant contentious. There's no unity. There's no unification in trying to accomplish anything. And I don't, you just came out of session, but I'm not sure what came out of that session.
It was the worst session that I've had in 14 years. It's very unfortunate because the people of Alabama, whether you agree with gaming or not, simply said to us, we want the opportunity to vote it up or vote it down. A lottery and gaming has been the most sponsored piece of legislation in Alabama history, period, since the beginning of our governance. And for up until this point, we have not been able to pass legislation allowing the people, mind you, allowing them to vote this time around. Of course, there was an opportunity, I think, under
99.
Governor Siegelman, 99. Of course, it failed. So the people want that same opportunity for a measure such as this to vote it up. They're sick of it. Whether you're for gaming, I'm not a gamer. I don't game, I don't gamble, I don't play the slots. That's not my thing. I can go buy a pair of shoes, a t-shirt, and by the way, this is from last night's or the concert Lionel Richie and Earth, Wind and Fire.
Well
and I wore this
attended.
because I know you are a music enthusiast and you actually play. I've seen you perform, but with that being the case, just a terrible session.
Yeah, and because nothing seemed to come out of it of any significance?
Nothing of significance that the people, it was foolery. I mean, I felt hoodwinked, bamboozled, and run amok. It was where we were running around like this until everything just stalled out and nothing. I left downtrodden. In 14 years, didn't matter what the argument or the fight was. I've learned in 14 years, you leave it on the table. And when it's over, it's over. But when we signed he died a few weeks ago, there was an ominous cloud because I felt we let the people down.
And did you leave there with a sense that you were not the only person that felt that
I did.
feeling of dissatisfaction?
Believe
for
it or
lack
not,
of a word?
the speaker and I, who are now, we are starting to build a good relationship. It wasn't as good at first. I'm a little high strung, and of course, understanding the shift of governing power as we transition into a new quadrennium 2 years ago. The speaker did this speaker, Ledbetter, did a lot to try to keep order, but to also deliver.
Hold it.
Deliver.
I want to hear more about that, but we have to let some lawyer sell some ad space.
Oh, well, we love our lawyers making good sale.
This is Our Issues Birmingham. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Our Issues Birmingham. We're talking with House Representative Juandalynn Givan, and she's quite animated, I would say, as her recent experience with our state legislative body, which includes the representative side and the Senate side. But you talked about Speaker of the House Ledbetter. I don't know that person. So are you saying that there's hope for the future?
I'm not sure right now. A lot went in trying to make it work this session. The speaker, he was very strategic, very meticulous in the planning of the legislation, the processes, making sure that the proper people were in place, Republicans and Democrats. And so I think that's why the public, the press, and the media reported on it so much that even with all of the planning, nothing happened. And again, we came together as Republicans and Democrats, again, to do one thing: allow the people a voice. You know, we're getting into issues of who controls. Do the Indians control? Do, special interest control?
Does Greene County control?
Does Greene County control? And so you're looking at all of these individuals in a hodgepodge of a recipe, but ultimately nothing gets baked in the oven. There's no deliverable entree on the table. No chicken, no collard greens, no caviar, no nothing is on the table when you leave. So the question is, why did you set the table? And most importantly, why did you invite me to dinner?
Because nobody ever served any food.
Nobody served any food. And so I left there very disappointed because I was quite hungry, as well as the people of the state of Alabama.
Now you're just talking primarily about the lottery issue. I have heard that there may be an effort to have a special session, whatever y'all call that, to try to reintroduce that bill in the form of an educational lottery.
I'm not sure. I think Governor Ivey, and I don't always agree with the governor, But the day we signed it
I
out,
rarely agree with the government.
she stood and she boldly proclaimed that she would not call a special session because she was so disappointed. She was so disappointed in the legislature, both houses, both leaderships, because of us going down for an entire session and doing nothing. And her words were, why would I call a special session for something that could have been done in the course of a regular session?
Well, Georgia has an education law,
Mm-hmm.
and it has been tremendously successful and benefited a lot of people who might not have been able to attend school or do the things that an educational lottery does. It is my understanding that embedded within the bill that got rejected, that there were disbursements of the revenue. Of course, it's going to generate a lot of revenue in places that some people would not approve of.
Absolutely. Now, my concern.
But isn't that going to always be the case?
It's going to always be the case. Listen, we're walking away people. I want the people to listen. We are literally walking away from somewhere between $600 million and $900 million in revenue.
Annually.
That we could be drawing from some form of gaming or lottery bill. Listen, this is a Bible Belt state. We all know that. But the same
But
people,
everybody's going to
the
Georgia.
people carrying the Bibles are going to Georgia. They're going to Florida. They're going to Tennessee. And they're praying over the ticket at the time of purchase, praying that they become a lottery winner. Pastors and preachers and missionaries and deacons and trustees, they're driving to purchase these tickets, Tommy. It's crazy to me. And I'm saying to myself, everybody, I'm not here to regulate morality. That's not the role of a legislator. But at the end of the day, you're going to go and buy a ticket anyway. So you mean to tell me the ticket is more saved if you go to Georgia? It's going to make it to heaven if you buy it out of Tennessee?
Yeah.
You're going to become a saint if you purchase it in Florida versus you spending your dollars in the state of Alabama?
Well,
come on.
But how would we spend that $600 to $900 million?
Listen, right now, if we're looking at an education trust fund lottery, if we were looking at an entire gaming package, you're looking at possibly 4 different locations. Of course, it would have included casino betting also, but also sports betting.
Yeah.
There is no industry larger than sports.
Well, everybody's betting anyway.
North Carolina passed sports betting last year. They started this year. I'm saying if you're on your phone and you're betting, it's no different. But the realization is, again, I'm only here to give the people an opportunity to vote. Again, I'm not a gamer. But the realization is the monies that we are passing. And I'll say this because I want the people to understand this. Pretty soon, the state of Alabama has fared pretty well over the course of the last 2 years, 3 years, budgetary-wise. Only because it was on the heels of the Obama money. Then, of course, we had the BP oil spill monies. And then, of course, the COVID dollars that came in. But the realization is all of that surplus, for which we, of course, I have to make this plug. We appropriated $1.23 billion to build 4 prisons here in the state of Alabama. By the way, that still have not been built. But the realization is we're giving away money to build prisons. But at the end of the day, we have so many other things that we could be using those dollars for. That's another day. But the realization also, it boils down to a lottery has so much purpose because all of those funds are going to run out soon.
So why not let the people decide?
Let the people, listen, the OJs, again, music, wrote a song a few years back, got to give the people what they want. And it's a do, 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 do. Got to give the people, you got to give the people what they want. And we're just simply here to give the people of Alabama what they want. But the realization is big business. And, there are people way above my head that's controlling this process.
Yeah, I would think so. I would think people like...
people from Vegas. I mean, it's huge.
I was going to say Vegas. I was going to say
huge.
MGM.
It's huge.
Or
It's
Bellagio.
huge.
Well, MGM is
MGM. And I know a lot of folks love Donald Trump, but, he's big still in the gaming industry himself. So it's just a lot.
Atlantic City, yeah.
Yeah.
Hold that thought. I got some other questions. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. This is Our Issues Birmingham. Welcome back to Our Issues Birmingham. We're having a great conversation about the state of our legislature and some of the laws that didn't get passed. And one of the laws that did get passed a few years back, it seems like a decade ago, but it's not been quite that long, was medical cannabis. And we are yet to see a dispensary on any corner in any county in this state. I've had John McMillan on 3 times. He wants to come back, but he's afraid every time he opens his mouth, somebody's going to sue him. What, are we close?
We're close. I think we're closer now. We finally
Got to be closer now. Couldn't be any further away.
They finally cleaned up that debacle of a mess of a commission that was created under law. Of course, you still get down to the procurement process. Well, how did we get here? How did you select those who you selected, the winning bids, things of that nature? And
That's what the litigation was
exactly,
about.
because you had a company, and I feel their pain. These people put over $5 million in just to build.
Just to get to the point.
Just to get to the point. That's
to be told no.
And their application really wasn't considered because somebody chose who they wanted to pick. And that's not right. I don't care who you are.
Well, didn't they increase the number of what they call, I think it's called an integrated license.
It's an integrated, they did increase the license, but at the end of the day, I do know folks are planning. I do know that.
People are growing.
They're growing. They're doing all of that good stuff. So pretty soon, hopefully, they will be up and running, and we'll see how this particular piece of legislation works. And even on that topic, I know some folks don't tweet me, email me, text me, or message me. We hope we one day get to a point where we decriminalize marijuana or at least lessen the criminalization of marijuana. I'm not a smoker. I don't smoke it, but I do know it does have a benefit for some who have medical issues and medicinal purposes.
Now, for those of you that might not understand that distinction, when you decriminalize it, you take it out of the criminal justice system and impose a civil penalty, because the feds are talking about moving it out of where it is now, which is Schedule 1. So it's right there with heroin and everything else.
Depends on how much you have. Yeah, exactly. So
and it just seems being legal in 30 plus states, and even in Alabama, even though it's medical, it's a step in the right direction for those people that are proponents of having it for the needs that they have, whether they're medicinal or not. You can call it medicinal, but it could still be used recreationally.
Absolutely. And it will help our students. We've all been young. We've been in college. We have young college students that get in trouble, for possession charges. You have some that do a little bit more of the distribution, and it's just a lot. I just think that we need to really.
I see you in the same courts I'm in sometime, and it's almost like the DA's office doesn't want to prosecute or waste the time and energy to prosecute somebody who's just using. I'm not talking about the traffickers.
Yes, and
I'm not talking about the distributors. I'm talking about somebody who occasionally would like to imbibe in some cannabis in lieu of a martini.
Or that was stopped by the police for a simple traffic infraction, and the police smelled the weed and the aroma coming through the windows. That happens a lot.
And next thing you know, they're in jail. Next thing you know, they have a criminal history.
You have a criminal history. And I just think it's just something that we really need to consider and study. But it took us a very long time to get to legalize marijuana for health and medicinal purposes. So we'll see.
What else is a hot topic? Well, let me ask you this question for my wife and for my own benefit. I look out at the Gulf of Mexico, because I have a home down there, and I see these huge love boat looking devices, which are actually methane gas wells. And I've had other state legislatures on my show, and I have asked, where does that money go? There's a lot of money out there. But nobody can answer the question.
Nobody can seem to answer that question. We got close to it this year, I can't remember, someone brought either some legislation or it was a part of a bigger conversation.
There's some kind of trust that goes.
There's some type of trust.
This is
I
big
don't know
bucks.
who administers the trust. That's the question. I tell people and whenever someone comes to me and they say, well, I have a trust or this and that, or this is in bankruptcy. So the question is, who's the trustee? Who's the administrator over it? And all of those processes. And no one seems to be able to answer that question. So,
not even the governor?
If she can, or if anyone on her team can, they're reluctant to do so. I don't know if it's the intricacies that are involved with it, but it did come up. I think
it's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. The question is how much, and where does it go?
They don't even know how much.
We don't know how much, and if it solely goes to us, that's another thing. That's the other question with our portion. It's just like sometimes with these water issues. We're so connected to Georgia, Mississippi, and Tennessee. And, there's been an ongoing battle even with our waterways in between those three states over the course of the last 15, 20 years, especially when Governor Riley was in office. So those are sometimes those unknowns.
All right, and lastly, because we don't have a lot of time left and you're probably not going to be able to get it in, why do we keep rejecting Medicaid expansion? It's so illogical to me.
Listen, it is one of the issues that has plagued me. There's no reason for us to reject it. It's simply to do it. We had it with the Obama money. We could have done it then. The ARPA funds from COVID, we could have done it then. There's no excuse.
It's a good thing for people can't get medical services.
Excuse. There's no excuse. Shame on my colleagues.
When you go vote, think about these things. Thank you so much for getting here in record time.
I wouldn't be anywhere
You don't need a
else.
lawyer, do you?
Thank God I was praying, saying, Lord, please don't let me need one, but I got here.
This is Our Issues Birmingham. We'll see you next Sunday. Have a nice night.
At ABC 3340, we're not just working for you, we're working with you. Because of you, together, we're making a difference. Thank you and keep them coming to news tips at abc3340.com or call us at 205-440-1841.